One of the questions I get asked regularly by Chek professionals and students doing more advanced spiritual development with me is, should I kill my ego so I can only hear my soul talking? And unfortunately, that's a question that is, a logical question, but there is a lot of groups out there, often religious, that are what I call the ego killers. And the concept is that the ego's bad, you got to get rid of it, and that's just not well thought out. First of all, let's talk for a minute about what the ego is. The ego is what gives your sense of discernment between self and other. It includes concepts like should, shouldn't. It includes what is it that I believe in versus what you believe in. So the ego is really the faculty or the capacity for discerning key things like that. And the ego begins to develop when the child around the age 2 starts using the words I and no. And prior to that, they do not sense any sense of differentiation with anything. Actually, they are in almost a fusion with the world, akin to what would be called magical consciousness in Gebser's structure stages of consciousness. Now, the answer is we should not kill the ego, and the problem of killing the ego to the point that you only hear your soul talking is that here's a paradox for you. If you had no ego, you would not know it was your soul talking. Your ego gives you your sense of I. Your ego is what gives you your ability to say I am. It's one of the most important gifts that God or the universe gives us, and without an ego you cannot experience love because there's no sense of self and other. Without an ego, you, the lover, cannot identify a beloved, so you would not really know that it was your soul talking to you. You would just be like a river making gurgling sounds, but having no conscious awareness of the fact that there was something being communicated by those sounds. So what we really want to do is we want to do work which is classically called shadow work, and just look at which aspects of the ego we want to keep because they are fulfilling and they're supportive of us, and which aspects of the ego are being projected. The ego begins developing early, as I said, and unfortunately the ego is largely a nexus of other people's ideas. So until we actually reach the point in our life where we realize that inner director of ours, this inner guide, this inner sense of self, keeps making decisions that often lead to pain and challenges in our life, and often repeated pains and challenges and repeated losses of jobs, breakups, divorces, etc., do we usually come to the realization that there's got to be something else that I can do. And that's often for many when the spiritual quest begins, and it's often for many, unfortunately, the beginning of a midlife crisis, or what's called the dark night of the soul. So what we want to do is we actually want to learn how to go inside of ourselves and look at key archetypal relationships that begin with mother, father, our childhood, and we can look to see, for example, where we might be victimizing ourselves, sabotaging ourselves, acting the eternal child, which leads us into codependent relationships. And we may also find that there is other aspects of ourselves that need to be evaluated, such as our beliefs about God. One of the tips I'll be giving in my upcoming workshop is how to discern the soul from the ego, and how to look inside of ourselves to find those parts of ourselves that are actually likely to be projecting themselves as ideas that we think are important for having what we want, getting what we want, having a sense of safety and security in our life, but don't realize that they're often actually not bringing us into healthy relationship with self, other, or supporting our dreams. And I will be showing you a lot about the unconscious and how it works, and simple but effective steps for shadow work, how to harmonize and integrate your body and your mind so that you're more congruent, because the soul is, as I will show you, relationships all the way down and all the way up. So if you want to learn how to have a healthy ego, how to filter out the parts of the ego that are no longer serving you and supporting you in achieving your dreams, and get a deep understanding of the spirit and the soul and how to have a soul-guided life. I look forward to sharing more with you in my upcoming Soul Guidance Workshop. You can find more information about registration and about the workshop in the information box below.